Hey there, welcome to a new video. My name is BassTi and in today's video I want to show you a new SOOTHE killer which has dropped a couple of hours ago. It's called SOOTHE, made by Nasko, who is also responsible for my favorite production tool ever, spectral. But in today's video we will just talk about SOOTHE, the new SOOTHE killer. Also later in the video Nasko will say a few sentences about SOOTHE, so stay tuned for that as well. And now let's get right into the video. I have prepared a reese bass which sounds like this. It's filling out the majority of the frequency spectrum. And now we can load and plug data. Plug data is open source and you can just download this. And then you can install all the amazing Nasko patches. Nasko has a bunch of free patches on his Patreon. And also the old SOOTHE just got free, which was an early version which we made last year. And SOOTHE is using a completely new algorithm. And this is what we are looking at today. This is what it looks like when you open it the first time. And let's just have a look what it sounds like when we move some knobs on this reese bass. You were able to see and hear that I ducked down the frequencies in this area after turning up this knob. So this is basically the intensity of this frequency band of how much of the frequencies in this area I want to get removed. And with the center knob, I can determine the overall strength of this effect. There's not only one frequency dial here, but actually 3. So you can attack different frequency regions on your sound. There's also a smoothing knob, which just smooths out the way the frequencies are being ducked down. And a release knob. And when you press shift while increasing the strength of this frequency band, you can make this whole area way wider. Let's reset those by just double clicking. And you can see that I'm basically ducking down the entire frequency spectrum. And of course we can make it a little bit less wide and also make it really narrow. And there's also a delta button, so we can exactly hear what we are isolating. With this offset on the top, we can move the area we duck down. We can also automate everything, which is pretty fun. You can also create cool sound design with this. On the top left, you see the value of the EQ amount I'm increasing or decreasing, and this is the Q. So when I press shift and when I move this, you can see that the Q is changing. In general, when you hover over an area with your mouse, you can see the frequency you are currently in and also the overall loudness. What we can now even do in a bass progression, for example, where the notes are changing depending on which note is playing, is that the frequency area we are ducking down is moving accordingly to the input of the MIDI node. So it can basically use MIDI information. And to set this up, we have to group our serum, import the external instrument as a new source here, as a new chain. And now we can send the MIDI signal to plug data by just pressing on no output and then selecting the 5 instrument rack. And then it automatically picks plug data, in this case, this instance. And now we just have to press the keyboard icon on the top right. And when we have this note and play this, you will notice what happens. Of course, you can also move the offset. You can also let the other dots move along to this. So we now have all 3 areas set up. For example, make this a bit more narrow, this a bit wider, this also a little bit more narrow just for demonstration reasons. And you can see that this is moving depending on the MIDI input signal. We can also let this effect glide up to 4 seconds. Let's reduce it to maybe 500 milliseconds or 600. And you can see that the spectrum is slowly moving in place. It can also be nice for a natural effect. In general, you can hear that SOOTHE suppresses the frequencies in a really clean way. It also reacts to audio faster compared to the old SOOTHE, which is free now. And you can also use it for cool effects, or just moving the dots around. So lots of possibilities with that. But now let's actually go into some examples to show you how you can use it in context. So I had this little song starting idea laying around, which sounds like this. And now there's some vocals coming in. I use Silk to make space in the mix for the vocals. So I'm sidechaining the vocals to the instrumental with all the synths and effects going on. And to set this up, I loaded the Silk on the instrumental, which sounds like this on its own. And the Silk obviously isn't doing anything because the vocal isn't playing yet. But when the vocal is coming in, you can hear. That the instrumental is reacting to the incoming vocal input signal, which is really nice. So I set this up by throwing Silk on this group. Then I selected the frequencies where the vocal is mostly prominent in, which is this area, and pressed the SC button, which is for the sidechain input. And now every time the vocal plays, we can make space in the mix, and you can perfectly see the frequency spectrum and what is being ducked down with the graphs in the background. And I think you get the best results by applying this between 30 and 50%, so the effect does not sound too strong. For example, let's also say that the vocal is too harsh. In this case, the vocal is really soft, but let's just assume the vocal is really harsh, and we can use Silk to just de-ess the signal. So this is also really nice to smooth up vocals. And with the delta signal, we can exactly hear what we are cutting away. Let's now jump into a different project file as well. So currently I'm working on this extremely heavy dubstep ID, which sounds like this. And without Silk, I would not have been able to achieve a clean mix like this. We have this resustain. What I did with Silk was basically to also sidechain it with the fast tearout gun rhythm, which is going on top over this. So you can see that it's always ducking down when these fast hits are playing. Let's have a quick listen to the context again. So the guns are hitting and this resustain bass is being ducked down heavily to just make space in the mix and allow the guns to punch through. Now before Nasko will say a few words, let's have a look at the extreme example of this sound. Warning, it's really loud. It's a really annoying and harsh sound. And let's just clean this up. So this is going through all the processing which is happening here. And let me just import a new Silk to show you what's happening. Now let's attack the high end heavily. Now we can heavily suppress it. And basically cut out all the intense and loud high end. Without attention, it will be loud now. And with, we can perfectly make sure there is no harsh frequencies anymore. We can also move the offset. I won't show you the delta signal now. It will be really loud and annoying. But I think now you got the perfect idea on how to use Silk, which is the Soothe killer. And Silk combines a really intuitive and easy workflow and just damages SOOTHE in my opinion. SOOTHE is really expensive, and just grab Silk on Nasko's Patreon alongside all the other amazing plug data patches Nasko has made. So I'm pretty sure you will like it. And let me know in the comments what you think of Silk. That's it for me. And now let's have a look at what Nasko has to say us about Silk as well.
So the main reason for the overhaul of the initial plug data patch, which was called NSilk, the main reason for Silk was that I wasn't quite happy with this iteration that I did back in March of 2025. I was kind of limited to some degree by the knowledge of the toolset that I had in plug data, whereas now with Silk, I'm taking advantage of all of the knowledge that I've gained since then, and specifically PD Lua, which is inside of plug data, which allows me to do the spectrum editor and the spectral EQ nodes, which is just vastly superior to a single band in NSilk, because there are occasions where you want to process different parts of the frequency region, not just one particular region. So that was was kind of the main reason why I wanted to do an update. But more importantly, the spectral suppression algorithm is new, and it's now on par with SOOTHE and Pro Q4's spectral resonance suppression feature. Besides that, I've had a great user suggestion for a MIDI tracking, which is actually very, very awesome when you have a sort of monophonic synth or a monophonic instrument. You can enable MIDI tracking and it'll track the fundamental wherever you put the note. It'll track the last MIDI note coming in, and then it'll track from there, which is really, really cool once you enable MIDI. Obviously, besides those reasons, primarily the reason why I even created NSYNC in the first place was because I wanted a resonance suppressor that wasn't using iLok. That was a really big pet peeve of mine with SOOTHE. And I mean, Pro Q4 is fine, but the bass latency of that when you're enabling the spectral resonance suppression mode is pretty high, so I didn't like it for that fact. But I'm super happy with how Silk came out, and besides also being affordable, it doesn't use iLok. So that's just a huge win for me personally.
That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and goodbye.